Let's bring in our next guest now, who says that the proposed bank tax would create monopolies out of banks that would be designed or designated as too big to fail if coupled with the existing proposals for financial reform. Here to tell us the big picture is Kevin Hassett, Director of Economic Policy Studies at American Enterprise Institute. He is also a Bloomberg columnist. Thanks so much for making time for us this morning. You know, Kevin, we had heard rumors from the IMF. We had heard, you know, at Basel they were also discussing another bank tax. This is separate and apart. This is a fee here in the U.S. What's the bottom line for banks? What is this going to do?
Right. Well, the bottom line for banks is that if their risky assets are going to be taxed with this 0.15% fee, and they chose the number because they want to basically make the banks pay for all the losses in TARP. The banks are complaining about that because the losses in TARP mostly came from General Motors and Chrysler when the president decided to bail out the unions, who are his big political supporters. And so what they're doing is they're taxing the banks essentially to buy off the unions.
Interesting point in there. But,
yeah.
I mean, you, in your columns here at Bloomberg, have said that financial reform, in essence, will actually make the bigger banks more secure. It'll make capital cheaper for them. So can we call it even if there's a bank tax on them?
Yeah, you make a good point, Margaret. The idea, again, is that they're defining some banks as systemically important, which basically means that creditors, at least, can expect the government to bail them out. That's why we need to have this bank tax, because we're going to be funding future possible bailouts. The fact is, if the bank tax is high enough, then the advantage of having the government guarantee your stuff might be offset by the tax. I haven't seen any analysis, however, that shows that they picked the level of the bank with that in mind, in fact, the bank tax. In fact, they picked the level of the bank tax with the losses from the union contracts at General Motors in mind. And so they're not really putting everything together in a way that an economist would like to see. It's a haphazard bill that's designed to give them political rewards, but it hasn't really been carefully thought through at all. You
know, I've had hedge fund managers say to me they like the Volcker rule because it'll help their business. It'll get banks out of the hedge fund business and bring them more. Does this help that as well?
Yeah, the bank tax isn't going to do that, but the bill itself will, because what the bill says is if you're systemically important, then the Federal Reserve gets to dictate to you what you can do and what you can't do. Now, if we have a lot of institutions doing the same things, then if one goes down, they all go down. And so what the Fed's going to do is it's going to say, okay, Goldman Sachs, you get to do these things, Citigroup, you get to do those things, and effectively create kind of monopolies out of those institutions, making them focus in different areas of finance.
Sure, it makes it a lot easier to sell, though, when you start talking about the issues swirling around Goldman, and of course they are known as the most profitable bank on Wall Street. So it's certainly a populist issue that can be sold. We'll see about what the cost will be, what the benefit. Thank you so much,
right.
Kevin.
Sure, thank you, Margaret.